Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John's report is for the 10th of February. And well, we can see that even after this little build, we had a little bit of a retrace softening. Again, the market is in for a period here of this digesting of what is taking place. Of course, you saw that Europe is now in the focus for some tariffs. And, part of this whole negotiation, now there's a confusion because some get it that, okay, it causes some people to fold pretty quickly. With the Europeans, unlikely. They're pretty obstinate and they can't move very quickly. They're just epically slow. So this is going to create some distortions, and I think the market's going to have a hard time navigating it and what it means for companies in between. We can see from the readings, while you still have, magenta leading, so you're going to hold your support ranges fairly decent, but starting to get a creep of MBI white shorts may start to activate a little bit, but still no significant push either way from bulls in this particular stance. It's just sort of soft blah is the best way to describe it. But you've got this rising gold, and even within the weak shakeout, it's still okay enough to keep things from imploding. But you get a breakdown of the DOC steel here below cyan, and yeah, you're going to have some more difficulties maintaining things. And it's going to take a little while. You can see the courts are now stepping in, so the market may see that as a bonus simply because they're going to block any changes. And when there's no changes, the market likes it because it's predictable at that particular stage. But definitely, it's going to be an interesting impact on what we see from growth standpoints because most of the growth that has taken place has been solely because of government spending, and most of that being excessive deficit spending. Now, if you can allocate that to more productive uses, obviously that's going to have an impact for the better. It's going to take some time, and this is where the market has to project what is that effect going to be. Are consumers going to be able to fill in the gap, so to speak, between that? From an NQ standpoint, the short interest is a lot stronger, and we had that strong rejection from the meeting of DOC cyan and green, and you can see as soon as that, I mean, that wasn't even what we would call a spider. Spider, usually you have some space between the, you know, movement. So like right here where it, was pretty good size over several days, this didn't even last a day, and that's where you saw the immediate weakness came through. And then you get the slight bump here in pre-market, but the euro relatively shaking off the fact that, they're coming for them. Some of it was baked in, but a lot of it all has to do with what happens with oil. And again, that becomes your predominant focus. Uh, how fast and how quickly can you bring down oil prices, which will affect inflation? Because as it is now, the market is kind of turning a little bit more in favor of the idea that inflation is not going to be too dramatic, even if the Fed um, hasn't quite caught up to that thinking. Turning to Treasury, sort of stuck here in this middle ground. It's not really attractive to be in Treasuries at this particular point. Still forces money towards the market. You've got the other problem of gold continuing to rise and oil not coming down fast enough. So you're in a situation where you're behind inflation, and as long as that exists, you're forced elsewhere. Now, of course, oil again becomes the predominant factor, and unless you get this move under the 60s, you're not going to have any change on where we're at in inflation. And I think that's the current recognition of the market. We're still in an inflationary period that hasn't ended. As long as that remains, you got problems. Now, the euro, of course, with that wonderful beginning of minor tariffs, so to speak, but it's just going to exacerbate the situation that already exists in Europe. And you can see they even had the situation in Germany just the other day where the court ruled that the migrants should make more than the regular competitive wage for regular Germans. And this leading up with their elections, it's all like ugly and just a catastrophe as far as organization. And do you say the socialist state of Europe is falling apart? I don't know about that. They're fighting tooth and nail to hold on to it, but it's these kind of things that anger populations, and people find it just unfair. And as a result, you know, it's not hard to see where the euro is, and relative to where it had been, just a decade ago, it's a utter mess. And the fact that it's even been held up this much is just a bonus. The only thing that really will help is continued decline in oil prices, and that will save the euro from having to transfer into dollars. But you can see the untethered relationship here of gold, realizing that inflation is not changed at all, and it's actually catching up to where it should have been. And, that outperformance relative to the crypto is just a catch up. So they're finally just getting caught up to where they were before. And from a Bitcoin standpoint, you can see it's still been soft, but it's likely to have a little bit more of a turnaround. It's just going to take some time for that build up that it took was much faster. And that's just that more responsive nature that you see from crypto than you do from what you might call traditional assets. Same thing, ETH still having its same issues, regulatory as well as just lack of interest. When we flip to the 50K, you can see that from early morning, once the NBI magenta crossed below yellow, we started to get a rise of the NBI white, and you also had the crossover right here of the blue to gray, and the rest of it was straight down from there. The NBI white peaking up there suggested a move towards the zero. We ended up getting it with a slightly rising zero, but even in the pre-market, it flipped around and converted with the full fill of the 0%. And currently, right now, in a nice positive upswing, taking advantage of that. When you look at it from a 5-minute chart, same thing. That was early morning, straight down in the European session right now. Yeah, things are all positive, looking good. So that's the long and the short of it for now. As always, anything relevant, I'll put on the Skype chat. Trade well.